It's the day before Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, and you know what that means? Leafs news! Man, I would have loved to say this back when I was doing LFR videos when he was still playing, but Marc Savard is a Leaf! The Toronto Maple Leafs have hired Marc Savard to be an assistant coach with their team, and if you have any doubts as to whether or not he is a good coach, he taught me how to do a saucer pass. That's true. That's a thing that happened. And the video footage is still humiliatingly available online. I'm a better skater than I was. Not much better, but a bit. And that little bit is because of Marc Savard. Back when we both worked for Rogers Sportsnet, Savvy taught me a bunch of different drills for a commercial that we did for Volkswagen way back in the day called Dangle in Motion. They're all still there if you want to watch them. Also, one time I posted myself trying on hockey equipment, and he informed me that I had my elbow pads on the wrong arms. And we were behind the scenes at Sportsnet together, and even I think he was on a few episodes of ice surfing with me back in the day. Really, the headline should be, Leafs hire former Steve Dangle coworker, which is how you know they made the right choice. Now, before we talk about Marc Savard as a member of the Leafs coaching staff, which is all that really matters here, I think it's also important to go over his playing career a bit. Because sometimes I talk about the Leafs run to the conference final in 2002 and how fond of a memory that is for me. The other day I was at a live event and someone said, "Oh, I wasn't born yet." And I said, so right around there, a little after, actually a few years after, that was Marc Savard's heyday as a player. He played 4 seasons with the Oshawa Generals of the OHL, and he put up 413 points during those 4 seasons, including 2 seasons of 130 points or more, including seasons of 87 and 96 assists. You see, Savard was primarily a playmaker. Even though he could score goals, he was a playmaker. That was his bread and butter. After being drafted in the 4th round by the New York Rangers and spending 2 seasons there, he was traded to the Calgary Flames, where he spent a few seasons. He started to take off production-wise, but then during the 2002-03 season, he was traded to the Atlanta Thrashers. And because of that, despite the fact that his numbers went up and up and up, he was kind of disrespected. And the reason for that is the Thrashers sucked. I don't think it was his fault. I specifically remember reading in a physical copy of the Hockey News at the zoo because I was bored at my job. I specifically remember reading someone saying about Marc Savard, even on bad teams, somebody has to score. I don't know if you watch the NHL this season. No, they don't. See the Sharks and the Blackhawks and the Ducks? No, they don't. Granlund led the Sharks in scoring. What do you have, like 60? Marc Savard was on these piss-poor Thrashers teams, but he still put up 47 and 57, that's not bad. 52 points in 45, and then 97 in a healthy 82-game season in his final season in Atlanta. Then he went to the Boston Bruins, and that's probably where you remember him from. You remember the good, following up his 97-point season in Atlanta, where he played all 82 games, with a 96-point season in Boston, where he played all 82 games. When healthy, this was one of the most ridiculous offensive players of his generation. If you take what was roughly Marc Savard's prime between the 2002-2003 season and the 2008-2009 season, he was 12th in the entire NHL in terms of points per game during that span. Guys like Crosby, Ovechkin, Forsberg, Malkin, Thornton, Lemieux were a touch above everyone else. Savard was in this secondary class of scorers that didn't really feel secondary when you see some of these names. Savard had 1.07 points per game. That was tied with Pavel Datsyuk and just behind guys like Ziggy Palffy, Jaromir Jagr, Daniel Alfredsson, and Danny Heatley. It was above guys like Jason Spezza, Marian Hossa, Ilya Kovalchuk, and a late career Joe Sakic. But a lot of people don't really remember him being that good, again, because Atlanta. Okay, he put up 97 points on Atlanta. Late in his career, well, first of all, it shouldn't have been late in his career. He was a very productive player for the Boston Bruins until his career was stopped in its tracks by a hit from Matt Cooke, who, very ironically and awkwardly, was actually the ECHL coach for the Leafs this year with the Newfoundland Growlers. The Newfoundland Growlers are no longer a thing. I don't know where that stands. Savard tried to make a comeback, and it was magical. He scored that overtime winner, throws his stick into the crowd. He did play a handful of games for the Bruins during the 2010-11 season when the Bruins ended up winning the Cup, and then he retired. The reason talking about Savard's career and how offensively gifted he was, I think is relevant, is he is very likely going to be running the Leafs power play as assistant coach. You don't have to take my word for it. You should read this article from Anthony Petrelli, great Leafs writer. He wrote about the possibility of the Leafs hiring Marc Savard and why I think he's a good fit earlier this offseason here. Contained within that article, he says Savard was an assistant with the St. Louis Blues for one season, overseeing a power play that ranked 3rd in the league. It was the season right after the Blues won the Cup in 2019, so it was the 1920 season. It was the season right after the Blues won the Cup, and Vladimir Tarasenko played all of 10 games, but they still found a way to boast an elite unit featuring Alex Pietrangelo, David Perron, Ryan O'Reilly, Jaden Schwartz, and Braden Shen. Perron led the Blues in power play points with 27. He's a pending unrestricted free agent this year. Anthony saying something without saying something. I think Perron is a very likely Leafs target. It just makes a lot of sense. And Craig Berube, you should listen to Craig Berube and the stuff he has said about David Perron in the past. Marc Savard and Craig Berube are very much in agreement in what they think of David Perron, and that is the world. Anthony continues, and I'm not going to read the whole article. You should go read the article. Savard moved on to try his hand at head coaching in the OHL with the Windsor Spitfires in his 2 years behind the Windsor bench. I know this is junior hockey, but whatever. The Spitfires led the league in goals in both seasons, with the league's scoring champion on their roster in both years. Marc Savard knows offense. Now, might be worth mentioning that Savard was the assistant coach with the Blues in the 1920 season. Okay, that's good. And they had a good power play. That's good. He was the head coach of the Windsor Spitfires in the OHL, and they scored a butt ton of goals. In fact, more goals than anybody. That's good. What was his most recent job? Sorry, what? Well, his most recent job was assistant coach of the Calgary Flames this past season, and their power play finished 26th. Sorry, Steve, you mumbled that. It was 26th out of 32, and that's not the best. So, in terms of recent performance, there's your area of concern if you're a Leaf fan. But, and this gets lost in the COVID ether, the 1920 St. Louis Blues were really, really good, and they were in a decent position to repeat. Now, they obviously ended up not doing that, and the 2020 Stanley Cup in the bubble that was in Toronto and Edmonton, it was valid. That cup was valid. All the teams had the same set of rules and they played against each other, and Tampa won. That being said, I can't help but wonder if the results would have been different if that season simply continued like any other. We have to go by points percentage, but during the 1920 NHL season, before it was shut down, the St. Louis Blues had the second best points percentage in the entire league. So if you look at recent performance with the Calgary Flames, no, not good. If you look at performance with Craig Berube, yeah, pretty good. And I like Terry Cochan just giving us the whole picture here. Rumored for weeks, the Leafs announced the hiring of Marc Savard as assistant coach. You know that. The hiring completes Craig Berube's staff for the 24-25, oh my God, it's the 25 season. Associate Lane Lambert, we did a video, we already talked about that, I like that hire. Assistants Mike Van Ryn and Marc Savard, goalie coach Curtis Sanford, and video coaches, and underrated, big time, Jordan Bean and Sam Kim. Worth mentioning from Kyle Cushman, who also covers the Leafs have 75% of the Blues coaching staff from the 1920 season, with Lane Lambert the only difference. Steve Ott remains with the Blues from that year. Shout out to the Toronto Maple Leafs for not making me cheer for Steve Ott. Although the Leafs have Shane Doan now, so I'm open to it. Personally, one of the things that I find hilarious about this move is the Calgary Flames are complete jerks to the Toronto Maple Leafs and will not make a trade with them. The Leafs are in every Flames rumor and pull off none of them. Just recently on the 32 Thoughts podcast, Elliot Friedman highly alluded to the Flames wanting the Leafs to pay more than other teams for certain assets, like Jacob Markstrom, for example. All because they don't like that Brad Treliving left. Well, guess what? Marc Savard was on the Calgary Flames, and he left. And then the Leafs hired. Get absolutely wrecked, you bunch of babies. Not you, Calgary Flames fans. Not you at all. Your team. You're welcome to rip on the Leafs to your heart's content. I just don't think you're going to be better at it than us. There's your Leafs coaching staff for the 2024-2025 season. What do you think? What do you think of the staff? What do you think of this hire? Leave a comment in the comment box down below. Also, Game 7 is tomorrow night, and there will be a cup check video on this channel celebrating whoever wins the game. Let me know in the comment box who you think is going to win Game 7. And we got a bunch of off-season moves coming up What do you think is about to happen at the draft, in free agency, maybe even the buyout window? We'll see. For now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. This is Dangle in Motion with Steve Dangle and Mark Savard. Just like old times.